let's talk about the other Texas team, which is the Houston Dynamo. So the Dynamo last season they finished with a record of 12 wins, 4 draw, and 18 losses. They had 40 points. They scored 49 goals, but they conceded 59 goals last season with a goal differential of -10. Last season summary, they finished 10th in the Western Conference and was eliminated in the round of 16 in the U.S. Open Cup. So, fortunately for the Dynamo, they weren't able to defend their title of the U.S. Open Cup, which, I don't think that's really kind of unfortunate because it's very rare that you see a team able to repeat as champion in the U.S. Open Cup. I believe the last time a team has been able to repeat as a U.S. Open Cup champ was the Sounders early in the last decade and around 2010. Players that they got this offseason. Now, I've been hearing a lot of Dynamo fans that are complaining the fact that this team is once again penny pinching and that the Dynamo there have been a team that has known to not really bring in some big name kind of players and not willing to spend a lot of money. And I've also heard some of the fans are complaining that they did not make enough off-season addition. Well, for me, I kind of feel like the opposite of what they're thinking. I feel like they did add some good off-season addition, and some of these names are like Darwin Quintero, Zarek Valentin, Victor Cabrera, or Marcelo Delomino, who they got him on a homegrown contract. Marco Maric, who is the new goalkeeper that is going to be coming in place of Joe Willis, that of course he is now with Inter Miami, or not Inter Miami, Nashville, that is, the other expansion team. Cody Cropper and Kyle Adams as the player that they added. Now, in terms of player that is out, DeMarcus Beasley is no longer with this team, and he, of course, is retired. And I don't know if I said the same thing when I did the Rapids season preview, where I talk about Tim Howard being retired, and that it's going to be very strange how next season I won't be able to see one of the most legendary U.S. men's national team player to ever play this game. And the same goes with DeMarcus Beasley, where, he is always known as Run DMB, and the fact that, we thought that he was going to be kind of like an ageless wonder and that he would never retire with the way that he can continue his work rate like that. Well, it feels like last season he kind of called it a quit, and it kind of surprised a lot of people because of the way that we call him an ageless wonder for a long time. But yeah, it's going to be kind of sad to not able to see DeMarcus Beasley play anymore, and that the Dynamo, not only they lost a big piece there on the fullback, but they lost someone that is also kind of a club legend to them, and also a legend to the U.S. men's national team. Like, there's no doubt that he is going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame if he is going to be entered in the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame. They also lost Marlon Hairston, who went to Minnesota. Joe Willis, as I mentioned just before, he went to Nashville via a trade. Romel Kyoto, which, by the way, via trade from Joe Willis, originally Nashville actually got Zarek Valentin on the expansion draft, but they decided to trade him to Houston, and that Houston, of course, gave Joe Willis to Nashville in exchange for that trade. And it was kind of one of those under the radar or blockbuster move that happened this offseason. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that, of course, will work out. And that I think both teams, they are going to be happy with this trade, and that they kind of will benefit with this trade because Joe Willis is an experienced goalkeeper, and Zarek Valentin is also a guy that I think he's kind of underappreciated when he was with the Timbers, and how not a lot of people thought that he was actually a very decent defender for them. Romel Kyoto, who went to Montreal, Eric Byrne, Juan David Kubica, Tyler Derrick, AJ De La Garza, who went to Inter Miami after the Dynamo decided to not pick up his option, and Kevin Garcia is also no longer with this team. Now, in terms of the goal scorer for this team, it's got to be Mauro Manotas, and I was kind of surprised the fact that, with the Dynamo, I know this season is going to be a rebuilding year for them, and that they made a lot of changes during this offseason by getting rid of a couple of their defensive piece and also in the midfield, and also brought in Tab Ramos to coach this team. You know, it feels like this is going to be a transitional year in that maybe they might even think about selling their biggest asset, which is Mauro Manotas and Albert Feliz, so that they can use that money to bring in some new player that can fit into this core of this new rebuild that they're in. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case, and the fact that Mauro Manotas and Albert Feliz is still here, and that I thought for sure that last offseason or during the last July transfer window in the middle of last season, I thought for sure that maybe they were going to be gone, and I especially thought that they would be gone during this offseason with them going into a bit of a rebuild, but they're still here, and I guess maybe that's a good thing, the fact that they're still here, because they will still provide some good attacking power on this team. In fact, when I look at this Dynamo attack, it actually looks really decent, and I probably maybe should have added in what I like about this team, not just the offseason addition, which I will talk about. Well, I kind of mentioned why it is the case, but I'll tell you again when I get there. Oh, but I also like the attacking power of this team. I mean, you know, getting guys like Mauro Manotas, Albert Feliz, Darwin Quintero on there, and even bring Christian Ramirez as a secondary striker to back up Mauro Manotas. That is a very lethal kind of attack, and you know, I have no doubt that this is going to be a team that should not have any issue in terms of the goal scoring department. Now, in terms of playmaker, I'm going to say Albert Feliz, but I'll also put Darwin Quintero, because I know when he was with Minnesota, which, you know, it's such a shame how it ended for him when he was in Minnesota, because, you know, Quintero, for whatever reason, he was just in the doghouse of Adrian Heath during last season, and there was really no reason that he has to be in the doghouse, because he was still performing with this team, and that all of a sudden Adrian Heath decided, yeah, well, I'm not going to play Darwin Quintero anymore. And obviously Quintero, he was not happy about the situation. Obviously he kind of in some way show his anger when he realized he was benched for the US Open Cup final, and also was benched for that playoff game against the Galaxy. And you know, to this day, if there's one thing as a Loons fan that I really felt like, you know, Adrian Heath did not do a good job, and one big mistake that he made in both of those crucial games is benching Darwin Quintero and not putting him in the starting 11. And the fact that, you know, we knew that with him just kind of not really starting regular minutes, something tells me his time was going to be up with Minnesota, and Houston basically saw that happen. They swapped him to get him, and now he's with the Dynamo, where I think he's definitely going to get a fresh new start. And I know some people will say, well, he's also started to get older, maybe that's why his quality is starting to fall. No, that is not the reason why. He was still very decent when he was with Minnesota, but for whatever reason, Adrian Heath decided to put him in a doghouse and doesn't really play him a lot. And I think now that he's out of that doghouse of Minnesota, and now with Houston, he should be a very decent player and should rediscover his form that he had when he came to the Loons when he was first arrived. MVP, I'm going to say Albert Feliz again, because Albert Feliz is pretty much the most important player on this team, and that I guess maybe that's one of the biggest reasons why they decide not to sell him, because, you know, I know it was a big asset that they of course could use to maybe think about finding a replacement for him, but they feel like maybe it's just too vital a player that no matter how big of the asset that they can use for it, the turnover rate was just a little bit too much, and that they decided to keep at least for another year, which therefore I think he's going to be the MVP of this team. And the surprise package, I'm going to go with Zarek Valentin, because, again, I feel like he was underappreciated when he was with the Timbers, and that he was a very decent defender, and that he's going to definitely help this backline of this Dynamo team. That their backline definitely is one of the biggest issue that they've been having for the past couple of seasons. And, you know, heading into this season, it's still kind of a little bit of an issue, especially the fullback position, because they lost AJ De La Garza and also DeMarcus Beasley to retirement. You know, who exactly is going to be fit into the role. But at least Zarek Valentin will kind of partially help that in terms of filling those holes that they have in the offseason. Now, what I like about them, again, I like the offseason addition. They kind of address some of the holes with the defense. Brings Zarek Valentine. They brought in another good attacking piece in Darvin Quintero, and they were able to find a replacement for Joe Willis in Marco Maric, which I'm not sure how well if he is going to do, and whether or not if he's going to be a guy. Like, I know he's probably going to be the regular starter for this team, but don't be surprised if he started to struggle, that Cody Cropper will be stepping into this team. I mean, Cody Cropper, he is a very good backup goalkeeper, and if I had a list in terms of my top 5 backup goalkeeper in this league, Cody Cropper probably would have been right near the top of this list, and maybe even be at the top of the list of being a good backup goalkeeper, because last season when he was with New England, he kind of shown when Matt Turner was kind of dealing with injury. When he stepped into that role, he did a very great job with New England, and did a very great job relieving being the main goal scorer, or the main goalkeeper for their team. So yeah, don't be surprised if Cody Cropper might be stepping into that role if they decided that maybe Marco Maric, the goalkeeper that they thought was going to replace Joe Willis, is not good enough. So we'll see how that's going to go. Now, one big question I have with this team, besides the defensive hole that they still need to address, and also in terms of the holding midfield and the defensive mid situation that they need to address, the biggest thing they need to address is the role form. I mean, besides the Quakes, which is if there's one team I can think of right away who has the worst road record and who always have problems in terms of playing on the road, I will always say the Quakes is one of them, because they are a team that just for whatever reason does not win on the road. And you can also see how every time when I watch the Quakes play on the road, and that I just kind of most of the time I'm just praying that at least they get a point out of it, and that if they get all 3 points, I'm going to be celebrating like they reached the playoffs, because it just doesn't happen very often. Well, I bet the Dynamo fans are kind of the same thing, because the Dynamo is pretty much like the Quakes, where for whatever reason when they go on the road they can't win those games, and that the road form has really kind of took a toll of this team in terms of their playoff hope. I mean, I remember back in 2017, the only reason why they made the playoffs was because they had an excellent home record. And, well, they did had some good road. They did get some crucial road points down the stretch in 2017 that kind of propelled them to make it to the playoffs. But really, in reality, they were probably the best team in terms of at home, and BBVA Compass Stadium was an absolute fortress when the Dynamo played in 2017. Now, in 2018 and 2019, for the last 2 seasons, BBVA Compass Stadium is still kind of a fortress, but last season, that fortress level really kind of started to go down, because, they started to drop points at home, and they started to lose game at home. And as soon as I start seeing them drop points at home and started to not able to get all 3 points at home, I knew this team was in deep trouble, because I knew that their road form was not going to be great, which again last season it wasn't great once again. So yeah, I mean, this is something that they're going to have to improve, and that I know in MLS there is a saying that as long as you win your home games, and maybe you get some road points on the road, you're going to make the playoffs. Well, that is true, but the thing is, the first part of the statement where as long as you need to win your home games, yeah, you need to win your home games. And I know home field advantage in MLS and in the regular season is still very, very big, which is why, when you look at teams on the road, usually when teams, of course, win on the road, it's kind of a big thing, unless if you're one of those big teams that is near the top of the table, because not a lot of road teams are able to win when they're on the road in MLS, although that also kind of started to improve a little bit as we go in the season. But, that also means that the home record is started to kind of go down a little bit, and that also is what I said about, if you're going to be a team that's going to follow that formula where you're going to have to win most of your home games and you're going to have to get points on the road, yeah, it's a good formula, but it's a very stressful formula, because as soon as you start dropping points at home, and as soon as you start losing games at home, then you are definitely going to be in a deficit. And that Dynamo, for the last couple of seasons, they've been using that formula to try to win most of the game at BBVA Compass Stadium. And while it was successful in 2017, it didn't quite work out in the last 2 seasons where they start dropping points at home, and that the road form was terrible for them, so that they can really make up for that position to potentially make the playoffs. So yeah, I understand that that's a good formula, but it's also getting to a time where some of these teams need to know that the only way you can make the playoffs is you still need to win most of your home games, but just to put a little bit less pressure in terms of your home form, at least win some game on the road, so that you can, of course, if you do lose at home but you're able to maybe win on the road and get a couple of points on the road, it will make up for that home loss that you might have suffered during that match week. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, if you're a Dynamo fan, what do you think of this? What do you think of your off-season edition and the player that is no longer with your club and we're out this off-season? Who do you think is going to be the goal scorer, playmaker, MVP, surprise package? What do you like about this team coming into this season? And what is the one dire question that you want to know from this team heading into this season? But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.